Hi, everybody. Welcome to the Pipeline Pioneer, a SalesIntel show where our goal, our objective, our mission is to help the companies learn from the leaders, from the practitioners, and from the thought leaders as to how to build the best pipeline for their business. As we know, pipeline is the heartblood of any organization. And we at SalesIntel believe that building a pipeline is a team sport. You can't just rely on BDR organization or marketing or AEs. It truly takes a village to come together to build a pipeline that ultimately converts into revenue. Today, I'm excited to have Warren Zenna with me. Warren, welcome to the show.
Hi, thank you so much for having me.
It's our pleasure. Warren, to kick things off, why don't we start with telling audience about you, about your business, and how in your role do you help influence the pipeline for your business?
So I guess first is, again, thank you. My company is the CRO Collective. That's Chief Revenue Officer, is the CROs, not conversion rate optimization. It's Chief Revenue Officer. And, we started the company 5 years ago to correct a problem in the marketplace, which is the lack of precision with which the role of Chief Revenue Officer is currently understood. It's a very ambiguous role. If you ask 5 CEOs what a CRO is, you get 5 different answers. And that's ridiculous because you don't get that same problem with a CMO or a CFO. And it has a really big impact on businesses, which is, you don't get the full value out of a chief revenue officer if you don't know what one does. And CROs don't get a good experience being a CRO if no one knows what you do. And what ends up happening is it's sort of a moving target. Most CROs run sales. They shouldn't run sales. And so what we're doing here is we're trying to correct this problem through a number of ways. We help develop chief revenue officers, people who are senior level people in companies or either sales leaders or marketing leaders. We upskill them, and we have a whole curriculum for how to get them to kind of make the leap, from that kind of VP level to the C-suite and become a chief revenue officer. It's not like an immediate thing. We provide them with a lot of ways in which to understand how to get that job and how to understand how to look for that job and how to evaluate the marketplace, because a lot of the jobs that are out there for CROs are not good jobs, and you need to know what that means. And how do I know, and how do I correct that? If I'm going to go out to the market, how can I influence the job hiring person to make the job better and set myself up so I can succeed? And then the second part we do is we work with companies whom are at a point where they probably need a chief revenue officer, and we help them become what I call CRO ready, which means ready for a chief revenue officer so that they can get the value of one. And most companies don't understand that before they bring on a chief revenue officer, they have to be prepared for one. In many ways, it's a complex process, and we help them do that. And the whole coalesces around building more revenue maturity in organizations so that the CRO role thrives.
That is great. So it's almost like a marketplace, right? On one side, you're helping the companies grow up and be ready for a CRO. On the other side, you're getting the candidates, educating them as to what the CRO means, and up-level the VP candidates or the ones that have been unsuccessful in CRO role, how to make them successful. That's such a great cause.
Thank you.
And a business. Warren, last year was tough for lots of businesses, especially in the B2B space, where companies just did not hit their revenue targets, right? And when you peel the onion, the pipeline just wasn't there. And the pipelines that were there, because of the macroeconomic headwinds, the sales cycles were longer. And as a result, lots of companies missed their numbers. When you look back and analyze your, businesses that you're supporting or you're helping, is there one thing that jumps out to say, I wish I had done things differently?
Yeah, I think that there's a couple of things here. We evaluate whether pipeline is good or pipeline is bad. First thing, what we're doing is we're perceiving healthy pipeline in relation to the projections that we made, right? So, if we made our company, we want to, hit this number this year, then our pipeline has to be able to provide that. So what we're doing is we're sort of putting ourselves in a position where now we're forcing the marketplace to accommodate our our projection needs, as opposed to the opposite, which is let's look and see what the opportunities are on the marketplace and let's serve them. And I don't think that's the right way to work. I think we're chasing our tail all the time. So, what I think is, if you have seasons of business, 5, 6, 7 years of really lean times where, fruitful times where there's a lot of money flowing into the marketplace and there's a lot of lending going on, and the VCs and PE firms are investing in a lot of companies. there's this exuberant understanding of the marketplace. And I think people then, respectfully, they raise their projections to accommodate what they think are good times. Then they have to try and backfill the pipeline to fulfill on those needs. And then all of a sudden the market dries up, which it always does. It's not a surprise. What's going on right now isn't a
Virtual
shock.
cycles.
It happens, right? So all of a sudden it's like, oh my God, we're not getting our numbers. It's like, well, the world doesn't live by your projections. The world doesn't care about your projections. So why are you operating this way? And so, some would say, well, that's naive, thing to say. Well, we have to create projections. How do we run our businesses? Well, no, you don't. I mean, you have to look at the marketplace and, modify them based on what you know is possible. So, of course, when things get lean, all of a sudden you're going to think we're not getting our pipeline because you're comparing it to last year when you could. So, I think first of all, it's a shift in thinking. That's what I think. And I think the other part too is that when we have a lot of money that's available to us and a lot of people buying, it's easy for us to fudge the definition of our ICP. It's like, well, maybe our ICP is a little bit bigger than we think. Let's reach out to more people because we can afford to reach more people. And as a result, you're probably reaching out to a lot of people you shouldn't be reaching out to in the first place. So your pipeline isn't as healthy as you thought it was. It just looked healthy because there's a lot of people in it, but most of them are crap and you shouldn't have been talking to them in the first place. So I think like what really comes down to is two things. It's keeping yourself really focused on exactly who your buyer is and knowing who that is so that you only fill people with, we're going to buy from you. And that's going to shrink your pipeline anyway, but it doesn't matter because it's going to be better. Higher quality is better than a lot. And number two is, maybe think less about, throwing out these crazy top-down projections and just taking a look at every year at the marketplace and seeing what you can get out of it and making your pipeline adjusted accordingly. I think it would give companies a lot less anxiety, not to mention the fact too, that if I'm chasing pipeline, I'm probably going to have people do things and take actions. And I'm going to spend my money in ways that are driving just trying to get more leads, as opposed to trying to accommodate the people that really want my services. And I think that those things are distractions from what you really should be doing a lot of the time. So I do think that there's like a mind shift here. I don't know if it'll happen, but this is what I'm seeing across the board, 100%.
Mind shift from where there's lots of money available, not clear definition of ICP, lots of hiring, from there to now you have to be really strategic. You really focus on your ICP. So great insight. So Warren, 24, we are right in here. New year, new initiatives, new experiments. What are you most excited about for 2024 when it comes to pipeline generation for the businesses?
I would say I do think that there's a weird collision going on now between one realization that is the ways that we've been doing things for the last 10 years probably aren't going to work anymore. We've over automated our outbound. We have too many tools and technologies that can reach more people with more speed and more efficiency than ever, which means we're barraging too many of our prospects with messages they don't want to listen to anymore. So we've changed the way buyers buy because we've annoyed them so much. And I think there's a good shift going on where people are going to be doing less of this and more real, like full stack sales work. I think that's a good thing. I think it's going to take a while for companies to accommodate that it may not happen as quickly as they like, but it'll be better. So I'm excited about that because I don't think that those practices were good. I think they worked for a couple of companies for a certain period of time, but I think that was never going to last. And then the other thing I'm also seeing is that at the same time, though, you've got all this AI crap coming out, all these new chat GPT and, LLMs that coming out. And I think the problem with that is that it's creating another delusion of how we can do things that people are getting excited about and a lot of investments being made in that stuff. And I don't think it's mature enough for us to make any sense of what it's going to do yet. I think it's going to probably be revolutionary, but it's going to take time, like anything. Even the internet took time for it to make sense. And so I think like we're at a stage where we're over consuming something and over promising something and overutilizing something. And we have a diluted understanding of what it can do. And it could be just another shiny thing people chase before we figure it out. So I'm seeing this interesting balance between these two things. And I'm very curious to see maybe beginning of next year, like how this ends up, and I'm not sure, I'm not really sure where it's going to go, but we'll see.
Yeah, lots of promise on the AI. I'm with you. The application that I've seen, they're still work in progress, experimental. I have yet to see an application on AI that delivers on its promise and is a production level application.
Yeah, it's going to be hard. I can absolutely, without question, see how it will ultimately be a very effective thing. I mean, it's no doubt. And it'll probably happen faster than most things will, because I think we could see that already, right? But I'm concerned that I'm seeing so many people say, I figured out how to do all these. They have to give me a list of all these AI platforms that are out there they're using. And I don't know, it just seems a lot of hype to me. I mean, I think there's some practical uses. I use it. It's really helpful. There's no question about it. But to get pipeline, I think you just still need people. I do. I still, I think it's a people business. And if you're selling to human beings, people ultimately, they want to talk to human beings. And I think that's going to be, it's not going to go anywhere. I don't see that changing, at least not in the short term.
Couldn't agree more with you. Couldn't agree more with you. So let's shift the gears a little bit. Warren, I'm going to share my screen with you here. Let me know when you can see my screen. And as we know, growth comes from many channels. Pipeline gets generated across sales, marketing, partnership, and the good go-to-market leaders, the most successful go-to-market leaders, know how to allocate their resources, right? So in this exercise, you have 100 pennies. Each coin is worth 10 pennies, and here are all the channels through which companies generate pipeline. And your goal here is to distribute these 100 pennies across these channels in a way to generate the pipeline that ultimately converts into revenue. How will you distribute these pennies?
Yeah, well, a lot of this would obviously depend upon the nature of the business that you're talking about. Yeah. Because there's a lot of different types of businesses out there. Even when you say product-led growth, I mean, that wouldn't be applicable for a company that wasn't in the SaaS business. So, I'd probably, be very reluctant to spend money there unless I had a company that it was applicable for. I tend to be very more than ever now lately, more heavy on things like marketing, community, partnerships, and customers, mainly because I'm just a big believer in marketing. I think marketing is a huge. I mean, I think that marketing used to be much more of an art than a science.
Yep.
And I think that it's become too much of a science. And as a result, we've lost the value that marketing can bring because it's connected to brand. So if you look at marketing and brand, they're both the same. You can't have brand-led growth without marketing. This doesn't work. So the reason you have a brand is because you've established the perception in the marketplace about that brand. And I think those are really important. I think if you don't have a brand, and I look at brand, I don't look at just like a logo. I think at like of a specific way in which you've carved out a perception of how you are in the marketplace, your value in the marketplace, whether you're an expert, or you're a thought leader, or you're the friendly person, or you're the stalwart, or whatever it might be. So I look at marketing and I look at brand as very critical. And customers, I mean, I think that's the lost opportunity. And I don't know what's going on based on what you and I spoke about. And if I may be frank, this entire conversation is about pipeline, right? I don't understand that's your business, but what can end up happening is if you have customers and you have a business where there's an upsell or there's a renewal or there's an expansion opportunity, I think there's so much more opportunity lying in the customer side of your business that is ignored a lot of times because there's such a rush or a desire to want to continually grow your business that the churn that occurs in your customer side is really bad for your business because customers are easier to sell to than new customers. So to that end, I think like if I were to be looking at a business right now, depending upon the business, I'd be looking at the customer base as a place where I can try and drive not only more dollars, more opportunity, because if I see customers that are happy, even customers that are unhappy, the learning and the insight that I get from those people are going to directly affect my quality of my product, which is really going to make my product go to market better. And I think that's a place I'd be putting a lot of things.
Should you put 30 pennies in here in the customers?
I just think so. I'm a big customer centric person,
Sure.
even though I'm a salesperson. And I want to put money in sales because it's obviously critically important. You have a really good sales organization. You have to have a good sales organization. It's critical. However, I think what's happened to the sales organizations today is that they're doing the job of marketing. Like they have these SDR groups that I think, frankly, I don't like them. I don't think it's good for the marketplace. I think that they've become armies of outbound, spammers, and even if they're good at what they do, they're still flooding the marketplace with too many messages. And I think that the, full cycle salesperson is someone who they need to bring that back. People really know how to nurture relationships. And I understand that some of this stuff may not be applicable for like a SaaS business, but most companies aren't SaaS businesses. Only 30,000 SaaS businesses. The rest are all non-SaaS businesses. So we tend to look at SaaS like it's the whole world, and it's just not true. So I think there's a lot of that also. And then I think that last penny I'd probably put in the founder, because someone who's at the top of the heap has incredible amount of relationships. And I think that, leveraging that person's influence in the marketplace is really important. So, I'm sure I could probably adjust this, but those are the ways I look at the marketplace.
Yeah, please feel free to. You have put 20 on a sales, and in your business when you're advising the CRO, is this one of the area where you advise CRO as to how to
Yes,
distribute?
I definitely do. Yes, I mean, I make it really clear that what I'm trying to do. See, the issue with the chief revenue officer is that the chief revenue officer, even anyone listening to this, would probably think that this is the case, that they think of a chief revenue officer, they think of someone who runs sales. So, you think of a chief revenue officer, someone who put all their money into the sales function because that's what they're responsible for. That's not what CROs should do. CROs really should be running the entire revenue operation. They should be overseeing sales, marketing, customer success, the whole thing. If they look at the world that way, more like a system, a CRO should be thinking about, okay, so I look at my customer, there's a lot of things going to come out of that focus. One is going to be, like we talked about earlier, defining my customer, which a lot of times the customer's not really well defined. Most of my clients I talk to, they're selling to people, but they're kind of like, yeah, we think this is our customer, and they're always refining it. But the quicker you can get that refined, the better off you'll be, because the more focused you can be. So I think if I'm looking at my customers, there's a lot of value there. One is, like we just said, cheaper revenue because it's renewals and expansion, which is easier to speak to someone who you're satisfying already. One. Number two is insights, right? Customers telling me stuff about the product is going to make my product team better, right? Number three is, who is our customer? If I can define my customer better, then my sales and organization, my marketing organization are going to be smarter. So if I'm looking there, there's a lot of value in the focus there. However, where's the focus? With all due respect, the focus is always on pipeline. It's always on new customers. And if you don't know who your customer is, it's a lot of money being wasted on something you don't really understand, So I think that's why I tend to look at it that way. And marketing is a key part of this, because once I know my customer, then I can influence them better. I can educate them and I can inform them so that when they think of us as the one who educated them and made them smarter. And now they're going to think of us more like the person they want to talk to when they want to make a purchasing decision, as opposed to me trying to sell somebody something when they don't need it. So I think these are things that I would look at the world differently than I think just a sales focused effort.
This is very, very helpful, very encompassing distribution of your penny. So let's take a look at how community, a lot of GTM leaders and have done this exercise with them, how they decided to distribute their pennies. And I'm going to overlay your responses, Warren, here on top of this. The orange is yours and blue's community bar. When you look at this, is there something that surprises you?
Nope. Totally exactly what I would expect. The sales is always the biggest. And that's because, I understand, I'm not naive. I mean, I know if you're an early stage company, it's all about sales, and I think it should be, but there's a point at which you have to modulate your sales efforts to accommodate your customers. And, the hyper focus on customer acquisition has just turned the whole world upside down. It's crazy. I mean, I know you and me, I'm sure how many ridiculous inbound emails you get in your box every day. It's preposterous. Very few of them are targeted to me. I'd say 1 out of 100 really are like, wow, that guy really understands me. Most of them are like, okay, I mean, either A, it's like they fall to bucket number one, which is, I have no idea how you figured that I'm the right person to get this thing. Like, what did you use to send this to me? I don't even buy this. I'd never use that. I'm not in that business. I don't have that job. It's unbelievable. And I'm not the only one. So that means that company's sending out a lot of other messages to other people like me. So they're wasting a lot of money. Most of them are. Then the other one is, okay, I'm not necessarily going to ever buy that, but I can understand why you might think I do, right? But you didn't do enough research to find out that while I seem like I'm in that product set, I'm not really a sales, I'm not a sales addressable market. Maybe I'm in your TAM, but I'm not really in your TAM. And you could have done a better job on that. And number three is like, okay, yep, I might be the person who could do that possibly, but I'm not ready to do it now. So instead of calling me up on the phone and saying, let's talk about this, why don't you educate me for 6 months? Make me smarter about that. So the day that I think about it, I'll think of you first. Everyone just wants to turn it into a sale all the time, and it wastes a lot of opportunity. So I just see this as being a really not surprising statistic at all.
This is so insightful, so insightful. Warren, thank you so much for joining us. I'm sure our community is going to get a lot of value out of these nuggets that you just shared with us. So thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate being here.